Hi, welcome to another edition of the Garden Angels of Justice and Peace with your host, Pearl Polto.
And Josie Brandon.
We have another great show today. All of our shows are great, and we're going to continue to say go to the website. We're doing seminars all across the country. We hope you join us. We hope you join these shows. We hope you get educated. We hope you learn from these shows because we're real. We're going to be real, and we're not stopping here. And, you know, some of the shows you will like, some of the shows you will not like, but we don't care. Because, well, we do care. But the thing is, we want to be real. Today's show is what, Josie?
Well, you know, today's show is a really, it's a serious show, and it's a show about really empowering good parents out there who are going through divorce. And the topic is really about what's called parental alienation syndrome, also known as PAS. We're going to talk about that and how it's really opening up the eyes of the community with regards to parents and selfish parenting, what's happening when people go through a divorce and what they do that actually hurts their children.
I have never heard of this before, and I'm sure many people out there. Explain it to us. I always say in pure English. I always say, tell
Yes.
the audience in pure English. What does, I know there's a word there. It's an alien. We think of aliens, over space, but
It's alienation.
okay, alienation, but a lot of people never heard of it, not a people. In pure English, tell us what exactly is happening.
Okay, good point. Well, parental alienation syndrome, and the reason why I keep saying it because I want people to understand what that word is, what the term is, and what it means, is that it's when a couple goes through a divorce, and it's the parent, one of the parents, purposely and intentionally tells the child things or does things to avoid contact with the other parent. So if the one of the parents have, let's say, custody, or they're living with one of the parents, okay, that, let's say, primarily with the other parent, they will actually tell the child things or do things underhandedly with that child to make that child believe that the other parent, that the other parent is either uninvolved or is bad, or they'll make up stories. They'll disconnect the contact with that person. And usually what happens, the reason why parental alienation syndrome exists, is because of the fact that what the person is trying to do is punish the other person for divorcing them, punish them. And the only way they know they can punish them is by using their children as a means to punish the other parent.
So what you're trying to say is we have two adults here, two adults that are fighting one another. And as the two adults are fighting one another, they're using the child as a ploy, the one that's, what's
Well,
going on?
I think the key word is sometimes they're not even fighting each other. They're just going through a divorce. They're separating. They're separating. But what happens is one parent will choose to try to use their children or their child as a means to disconnect with the
or to
other
get
parent.
what they want.
No,
Is it possible? Is that what they do?
or to get what they
want?
want. I mean, there's different reasons why they do it, and it goes down to psychology, it goes down to the financial. There's a lot of different reasons why they do it. But what our show is going to focus on today is how it's really detrimental to the child. Okay, how it detrimental to the child, and selfish parenting is the worst thing you could ever do for yourself and for your child.
Of course it is.
Yes, selfish parenting. That's really what it's all about. Selfish parents.
So what is the child going through? They see their mother, they see their father. What is the child going through when they see it? Who do they choose? Who would the child choose? I mean, this is pretty tough.
Well, there's a lot of different studies, a lot of different scenarios. It depends on.
Do they choose the abuser? Do they choose the one that's doing all this?
First of all, let me make this, because the name itself, parental alienation syndrome, makes it look.
Them apart.
Well, this is the thing. People, when they first hear that name, parental alienation syndrome, they think that it's one of the parent is purposely trying to alienate themselves from the child. That's not what it is. It means that there is a parent who's trying to alienate the child from the other parent.
Okay.
So there is intent. There is an intentional desire to hurt the other parent, and they're going to use their children to go ahead and hurt that other parent.
Isn't that called child abuse?
It should be called child abuse. And actually, they're doing studies right now. There's a new law that's supposed to take effect in May of 2013 with regards to some of the laws that are going to be governing this.
Can we help pass this law?
We definitely can help pass this law. 100%. Every person is a voice. Absolutely. And what happens is that let's say a divorce happens. the mother or father. Let's just, in this case, we'll just pretend at this point that the father has the child. Okay, the mother, let's say, will send mail to that child, and the father will not ever give the mail to the child. So let's say it's a holiday or a birthday or something of that nature. They'll purposely and intentionally not give the mail to the child. Now, what happens is the child thinks, Mom didn't send me any mail, right? But in essence, she did send the mail. The child doesn't know that the parent withheld the mail. Now, what happens is, and then there's things that parents will do. They'll say things like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that your mom didn't think about you, or she's not here, or do things to make it look like to the child." And it goes vice versa. There are women doing this to men as well. It's not one or the other. Women are doing this to men as well. And what they're doing it purposely because they're trying to make that child to believe that they're the better parent. Now, here's what happens. What happens is the child really has depends how young the child is. Okay, they will actually start. They don't have independent thinking anymore. They adopt the thinking of the parent who's controlling the child.
So would they be under control and afraid of the person that's controlling them?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, what happens is that the child becomes so afraid that they will almost change. They will change their personality to look like they're 100% behind the parent who is controlling.
Out of fear?
Out of fear. Sometimes it's out of fear, or out of fear of being rejected. They're afraid that if they don't do what the controlling parent does, they'll be rejected because they've already been conditioned to believe that the other parent is either weak, not smart, inattentive, not able to support them. I mean, there's all these different factors to come into play. And again, these are selfish parents doing these things, and that's why we have to talk about this. This is what I'm seeing in the court system. This is why in 2005 I started Divorce Support Network to put an end to parental alienation.
You have that. You have a support network.
I had Divorce Support Network, which I started in 2005, is because I started seeing these things happening and the trends that were happening and the devastating effects that it had on children. And I was totally committed at this point that the message had to be out there that selfish parenting has to end. Divorce is between a husband and a wife. It should not be regarding allowing our children to get in the middle, to have them forced to choose one parent or the other.
What does, as you're saying all this, the child then is pulled. It looks like it's pulled. Isn't the child going to go through some mental issues?
They're definitely going to have struggles, absolutely, in a lot of aspects. In fact, what they say is that when you pull a child to make them believe they have to choose between one parent or the other, you're actually forcing them to love a half of themselves because they don't want, because a child is part of a mother and a father, and when you have them choose just one person to love, you're asking them to choose just one part of themselves. So they have to sometimes emotionally disconnect the other part of themselves so that they don't feel the pain of that other parent. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And then they start doing things, they start reacting, they'll start saying things or doing things because they're trying to disconnect with that other parent. It's not because the other parent did anything wrong, it's because the messages that are being shown on the other side are so strong that they're trying to convince it that that child feels compelled to not, they feel controlled. They're controlled. It's brainwashing.
How often does this go on in your surveys that you've done?
It's unfortunately it happens very, very, very often. In fact, that's why
we don't hear about it as much.
You know what? I hear about it all the time because I'm in the divorce community. Yes, and I do all these things with regards to helping people going through divorce. And they use it. There's words like brainwashing, manipulation. Those were the words that were used for many years. The child's being manipulated, the child's being brainwashed. But what they found was it's much deeper than that. And that's why they just came up with this parental alienation syndrome, because they're seeing that there's a syndrome, there's something that's coming out of this that the kids are experiencing. So that's how deep it's getting.
Can the schools interact with this when they see children that are being pulled? Are they allowed to interfere?
Well, the guardians at school, the counselors, I should say, at school definitely are involved in the kids. But one of the things when I started visiting these schools, and I have talked to counselors and things of that nature, they deal with so much parents coming in here with every different story. I mean, there's divorce happening everywhere. They go to the schools and they're dealing with one parent saying one thing and another parent saying another. So they're basically saying that, bring your divorce papers in, your information into the schools. Let us see, who has the as far as decision making. Oftentimes it's joint decision making. but there's one parent that predominantly will say things or do things and make up stories about the other parent to give the illusion that the other parent is an uninvolved parent, has issues when they don't have issues, again, to control the situation. They're trying to punish the other person for filing for divorce or just basically going through a divorce. They're punishing the other person.
It's called control.
Called control. Called control.
So the whole key is then they not only want to control the situation of a divorce, now they want to control the children that are involved in a divorce.
And then the children
and who
really
suffers.
And the children get caught up in this world of really not knowing between truth or lies. They don't know who's telling the truth. When you love two people, a mother and a father, you don't want to have to decide who's telling the truth. You want to believe both of them. And so now you're forced to choose between one or the other, and they really don't know who to believe. So it's unfair. The bottom line is it's totally 100% unfair to the child. And what my message is, stop it, don't do it. And if you're watching today, if you're a parent out there watching today and who's experienced this, who's gone through this, God is going to grace you today with a message that says, don't stop telling your children you love them, and don't stop being that great parent, because that other parent wants you to give up and fail. That other parent wants you to get tired. That other parent wants you to feel like there's no way for you to get into the circle of that love for that child. And you're going to be tested. That child's going to react. That child's going to fight you on. He's going to say ugly things to you. I mean, things that will hurt you to the core of your soul. But you got to understand that the pain you're going through as a parent, that pain is that's one fraction of the pain of that child. That child's got 10 times more pain than you do. So you just have to be the parent, you just got to go in there and say, I know you're angry. It's unfair what's being said to you. I still love you, and I'm here for you. What you're saying is wrong. It's unacceptable. You can't treat me this way. You can't say things like this to me. But I love you because I know you're confused. And at some point, you will realize what's really happening.
We're going to go to a commercial. When we come back, we're going to find out why these parents aren't taking these children to counseling, or let's see what happens when we come back.
There's nothing more disruptive and annoying than getting an automated call to your cell phone. There are laws against companies using computers or recorded messages to call you on your cell phone without your permission. This is consumer protection attorney Carrie Flitter. You've heard me as a guest on the Pearl Polto Show. There are consumer laws in place that prohibit many of the unwanted calls to your cell phone. If you're receiving unwanted or unauthorized calls, whether collection, selling products or services, or otherwise, you may be entitled to have these calls stopped and to collect money damages that the law provides. If you're getting unwanted or pre-recorded calls to your cell phone, contact us, the Consumer Protection Lawyers at Flitter Lorenz, at 888-668-1225. That's 888-668-1225, or online at consumerslaw.com. That's consumers with an S, consumerslaw.com. If we accept your case, the bad guys pay our bill.
You're listening to a very serious Guardian Angels of Justice and Peace with Josie and Pearl. And you know, today is a very serious show because it's about divorces and it's about the children, how the children are being pulled. And before we went to commercial, I wanted to ask Josie, because she's an expertise in this and she has her divorce network on the internet. What happens if the child has so much rage towards one parent, as you said, and why doesn't the other parent make them seek counseling, or the school? Why doesn't people see this in the children to make them seek counseling? What's wrong with the United States?
That is a great question, and there's so many answers to that question because it goes down to the court systems and the different things that go back and forth. Often what happens is that the parent does want the child to go to counseling. They do want to see that the parent that's trying to make an effort to reach out to the child does want that child to go to counseling. What happens is the parent who is doing the manipulation, the parent that's doing the brainwashing, the parent that's saying all these things is basically letting that child know that they either can't see the therapist, or they're avoiding the therapist, or they're poisoning the mind of that child to avoid seeing the therapist. So it's
would be the purpose that the child would see the truth one day.
Exactly, because the therapist, obviously a good therapist, is going to allow that child to see what's really going on and really at least allow them to express themselves. When the child goes sees a therapist, they're allowed to speak without being intimidated by one parent or the other. They're there privately, right? So a child is more going to be likely to be more open. But knowing that one of those parents is saying, no, I don't want that child to go, or saying they're doing certain things, that child is now intimidated and does not want to go see the therapist because one of the parents is saying no, while the other parent is saying, I want the child to go see a therapist. Now, what my recommendation to a parent, to any parent out there, based on my, the information, the experiences, is that you still have to go out there and say, I want my child to go see a therapist. I am demanding that my child see a therapist. I feel it's absolutely necessary that he sees a therapist. And don't let the court system dictate to you what you feel is in your best interest of your child, because there have been guardian ad litem. The guardian ad litem is somebody who is assigned to your child. So, like when a couple goes through a divorce, they have their attorneys, and then a child is assigned an attorney, which is called a guardian ad litem. And these attorneys, I mean, the court systems are so filled with cases. I mean, this is what's happening, that you think I'm important. That's what you're thinking. I'm important. My case, my child, that we have feelings, we have situations. You're a file. You're a file number. You're not, I'm telling you, and I'm telling you this because you have to take the proactive approach of being your voice, of being being the parent that has the barometer of knowing what's going on with your children. And that's what I'm trying to say. The message is go out there. So you're asking about counseling. Yes, parents definitely, if you love your child and you want to see them heal, you recommend counseling.
Well, every parent, I'm going to say, majority of parents, I'm not going to say every parent, majority of parents we assume love their children. So, but which is worse? Is it because they love their children so much and subconsciously they don't want to hurt their child, and yet they have so much rage towards the other half that they're not thinking?
It's not love. That's the whole point. Because
I mean, is this what happens though? My question is this what happens? They have so much rage to the other party that they're alienating this child from, that they're forgetting that this child could need help, and this child's the one that's suffering. They have so much rage in them by fighting the other party.
They're forgetting and they're destroying. That's really what's happening. You're destroying the spirit of that child, because that spirit should not, I don't care how angry you are, don't let the child get involved in your issues. Take the child out of that situation, and you and that person hash it out, and don't bring it to the children. They don't deserve to get involved. They deserve the love of both parents. If you're good parents, they deserve the love of both parents. And it's, the funny thing is that a lot of the times, and it's not even funny, but I use the word funny, but the amazing thing is that, when you first got married, you could find elements that you trusted each other, right? So now what happens is you get into this divorce situation, and now these stories are being made up against the other parent, which never did occur. All these things, only, again, their mission is to punish you or hurt you by using the child. And so it really comes down to the mindset of the selfish parent. The mindset that the selfish parent is willing to go to do everything they can, and it's not love. That is not love. You do not love your child if you're doing this. You are, I think you're loving selfishly. You're loving blindly, because that is not love.
It's not saying it's not love. It's not a parental love that they should have had. So they weren't even directed to.
If you're manipulating your child, if you're doing things to allow that child to believe that other parent has no interest, or is incapable, or is not is not smart, or doesn't have the ability to have financial security, and you're telling all this thing, and you're filling your child's mind with these things, and they're not true. They're not true. Do you think that that's called love? Would you want to tell that to a child? Do you want to fill that child's mind with that kind of information when you know it's not true?
So
why would a parent do that?
Why do they do it?
It's and in my opinion, it's really something that deals with the psychological. There's something that they missed out on either as children, that they feel the need to control, and they're losing sight of really what's really going on within themselves.
But they're losing sight with their children, not with forget about the spouse. Forget about fighting with the spouse, because we hear this every day with divorces. But now there's a child involved. And it could be not a child, it could be anything involved with it. But why isn't our government stepping in to say, that's it, we're not going to let this happen? You said there's new laws to be passed, but the thing is, why now? Why wasn't it passed before? How many kids now are abusing their wives because of this?
Exactly. Well, let's go back to what you just said. Why isn't the law? You and I have been working with all types of things with laws, Congress and things of that nature. We see what's happening behind the scenes of how many issues are on the table that don't get resolved. We know all the things that are happening in the court system. We'll talk about it in another show, but that's really what's happening. That's why I'm saying to parents that you have to do everything you can to help that child and love that child, regardless of how that child or what he's saying to you. Say what their behavior is wrong. Acknowledge the behavior being wrong, but acknowledge that the child, we know you're hurting, and we know this information is being given to you. I'm going to love you. I'm going to love you through this, because the child is confused. They don't know who to believe.
All right. Now I'm going to go to another stupid question.
Okay.
But why can't, I mean, you're talking about a husband and wife, and you're talking about a child, right?
Yes.
Why can't, because the child has grandparents, has aunts and uncles, why can't the family intercede with this?
Oh my goodness, Pearl, that is a great, great question, because what happens is that the alienator, which is the parent that's trying to punish the other parent, will actually not only do they alienate the parent, but they alienate the parents and the families. They will actually prevent that child from seeing the grandparents, from the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, everything. They'll prevent that child from having any
You're
contact.
saying, wait a minute, I got to stop you here. You're saying that child, depending on the age, is so weak that, I mean, I'm just picturing myself. If my mother or my father, and they would say, well, you can't see your grandmother. I would say, what do you mean I can't see my grandmother? But I would be afraid of which parent had me I was more fearful of my parent. Is that what you're saying? They're more fearful of the parent, so they're alienating the grandparents who they could love, but they're more fearful of who the family or the member that they're with. Is that what you're saying?
They are afraid, and what happens is that they start to believe what the alienator is telling them, the person, when they're young. Now, when they get older, they get these revelations. They start to see. There's countless stories of children who had gone through parental alienation, and then they were reunited with the other parent, and they found out all these things about how there were letters written to that child, how there were so many attempts to reach out to that child. And that child subconsciously knew in some way they felt there was something going on that wasn't right, but they didn't have the voice at the time. They didn't have the ability to really fight the force that was within that area of their lives. But as they got older, they started realizing what was happening, and they started seeing the manipulation that was occurring. And so the children then end up doing something as they get older, because they're more aware. Because when we're younger, just like we talk about conditioned belief systems all the time, being in an environment where you believe, the way we're raised, we believe something. So, just like racism or something that can be conditioned to believe, a child can be conditioned to believe by anything. If a parent is constantly saying something or doing something and doing things in the most manipulative measures, that child will potentially believe what that other parent is doing.
So,
or saying.
The long run of this is the reason why laws should be changed out there. The social workers or the family members should step in, because here's what's going to happen. The child now he's going to grow up. He may see he may see what's going on, but then the generation goes on.
Exactly.
And the abuse goes on, where he may meet a girl and say, this is the way it's supposed to be. So it just goes from generation to generation, if this is the case. Is that what you're saying?
Or she may meet a guy and then goes, yes, exactly. The child, whether it's a boy or a girl, will grow up to be a man and a woman. And yes, these issues will come up because they don't know the difference between truth or lies. They've had to play a game to survive the trauma of divorce. And so they have to grow up and they've had a distorted view of what love is and how to survive with love. So it's unfair to the child. And the reason why this is such a strong issue for me is that it's a cycle that has to end. I mean, parents got to realize, when you commit to someone and you get married to them, okay, you pray that the relationship is forever. That's the intention, forever. Now, when things happen, and they do, and parents decide that they no longer can be together, that is an issue between husband and wife. Keep the kids out of it. Keep the kids out of the mess. Allow the child to love the mother and allow the child to love the father. And don't talk about them and don't say anything that's going to make them feel that one of them is going to be safer or whatever. It didn't exist during the marriage. Why are you doing it now? Just because you want to be able to show something that you're stronger and to let the child feel that you're the capable parent? I mean, that's really, if you think about it, that's really a person who's super insecure.
Weak. That's the weak person.
Super
I call it
insecure.
weak. I call it weak that he has to have control of something, and if he can't have control of the marriage because of whatever reason, the child is the only thing he has control of, and he's got that leverage.
And again, this is both for men or women. Women do that as well.
Women do it as well.
They'll do that to fathers,
Yeah.
and they'll say, "Oh, their father doesn't want to get involved or whatever." They'll do this, but really, it's the fact that the woman or the father, one or the other, whoever's doing this to their child, is completely insecure, because a person who's fully insecure will give that child everything, the love of both mother and father, right?
Yes.
You know, you want, if you're
Yeah.
moving on with your life,
Unless you have so much hate. You have so much hate that your concentration is just focused on the other spouse and not on the child. So you're using it and you're saying, well, the kid will grow up and he'll get out of it. No, they don't get out of it.
Yes.
What law? My concern is for the people out there. Well, you said there's a law that's going to be passed or something. What law? What kind of law is this, and what does the law involve? And would you know anything about this law?
yes, they actually, well, they can get all the information. Actually, it's on my website, actually, for Divorce Support Network. So if there's a parent out there that wants to get actively involved, they can go to divorcesupportnetwork.com. There is a page on there regarding passing this law, and they'll find that information of who they need to write to, what the deadline is, and get involved in that manner. So
Do you know
yes,
anything
there's a
about
law.
it? What's the purpose of it, though?
The purpose of the law, yes, the purpose of the law is they're wanting to add this into the medical books as a you know how there's different terminology for like, let's say ADD and like different definitions for medical conditions. They want to say that parental alienation syndrome is an actual syndrome. It's an actually medical term. They want to use it as a medical term because they're using this. They've used this term as a generality of what's happening with regards to the issues that are going on in the court system, but it has not yet been put into the medical books as an actual medical condition that a child is experiencing. So that's what the law is. They're trying to pass that law because this is something that's so serious. There are so many children that are suffering these issues, that are going through this, that they're saying this is something that we have to address in the court system because it is affecting the children. And then you have all these juvenile things that are happening, you know, things that are happening with the kids because they're taking out it emotionally. They're doing things they normally would not do.
I'm thinking of the kids that were caught with the knife in the schools and stabbing everybody, or the kids that were shooting everybody. I wonder. You wonder. I heard through the grapevine that the one that was shooting everybody, his parents were in the process of a divorce. I was
Yes.
curious if that was part of the problem, and he's just like, there's no way out. So he goes to a school and he starts shooting everybody or stabbing everybody with a knife. If this is, I mean, why would a kid do this? So we don't know it. We don't understand it. So now maybe we can understand it. The kid has so much rage because he can't pull apart the partners. He loves his mother. He loves his father. He doesn't want to hurt either one of them. So what's he do? He hates himself. So because he hates himself, he goes to the school and he starts killing kids because he sees himself.
Yes, there's this, you know, it's amazing that you even mentioned that because I know exactly the article that you wrote. And as soon as I read that article and I read that his parents, this one kid that did this in the school, that did shooting, his parents were going through a divorce. The first thing that came to my mind is that this kid is dealing with issues from a parental divorce because they're confused. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening, and we've got so many distractions now to really expressing our feelings. We've got video games. We got all these things that are now allowing kids to really sit down. We're not spending time enough with our children. We're dealing with our me issues as parents, and so the children ultimately pay the price, and then these children become adults.
Don't
and then
you
the cycle
think, though?
continues.
Yeah, but you see, you can't go there, though. We're in a different generation. We have single mothers out there. We have single fathers out there, and we're not like the old school where they sat down at the dinner table, stuff like that. So the kids now are learning from a different generation. The divorce rate, as you know, back then, there's no such thing as divorce. You know, you're going back to years, we weren't allowed to get divorced. We had to stay married. And the object was showing our kids. Today, because of the fast foods, everything that's going on out there, people can't support themselves. So they get into situations, and in the situations, the kids are there. So the kids are trapped. And then when they get divorced or something happens, they're fighting, but they're not really concerned about the kids. They're worried about, how am I going to get even? How am I going to get even with this spouse? And this is where I just can't understand how the court systems, not even just the court systems, the child welfare, why are they getting so involved in it? I mean, to say to pass laws, why don't they pass the laws?
You know what?
In Washington, why doesn't our
they're
president?
working on that. They're working on these laws, but here's what I'm going to say is that the court systems are so congested with cases they've got all kinds of stories of let's say molesting children and things of that nature. They're working on these things. Parental alienation syndrome is one aspect of many different things that are happening, but there's just so many different cases out there. And there's cases that are not even true. Parents are making up stories that the child was touched this way or inappropriately or whatever. It never happened, but yet that's as far as parents will go. They'll make up stories.
But why won't the child defend the other parent, or don't they? They're just so controlled by the one parent.
Well, your child, let's say you're 3 years old and you don't have a voice. Like, you're going to take a 3-year-old to court and say that, there's a lot of variable. It's not so cut and dry.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of psychological issues that go even deeper. That would be,
I think if I'm putting myself as a child, I always like to put myself as a consumer. I'm putting myself as a child, and I'm putting myself as the parent with the parent, and he's turning me against, let's say, my mother. And I'm staying in the relationship with my father, let's say, and I'm picturing myself and my father saying, your mother did this, your mother did that, your mother did this. And I'm saying, yes, daddy, yes, daddy, yes, daddy. And then I'm saying, as I'm sitting there, I'm saying, I better be good because this is what he did to mommy. This is how he's talking about to mommy. So I better be good because he may do this to me.
Exactly. You're right on the exact same track. And the thing is that, it's not just the kids that are going in and doing these things with guns. There's some kids that are doing academically very well. They're doing very well in school, but internally within their soul, they're struggling. And, sometimes you're like, well, if they're struggling, it should affect their grades. Yes, it should affect their grades on some levels. But there's some children, I know some children that will actually use all their energy and put all their energy into their homework because they don't want to think about really what's going on inside of them. And they're great students. So they'll focus on their studies and their grades because by reading and doing all that stuff, they end up not thinking about what's really going on inside of them. But when they go home and they go to bed and they're thinking about things, there's moments when they cry, and there are moments when they actually go on their pillow and they cry. And so really the message here, there's two messages. There's one is that the parent who is, and I'm going to say this again, the parent who's at home who is saying, I'm one of those parents, this is happening to me. I've been sending mail. I've been trying to reach out. I have no communication. They want you to go crazy. They want you to do something stupid.
Or you're talking about the mother, let's say the mother or the father, they let's say they sent their child a card, and they're waiting to see if they get a response, and they don't get a response. So they think the child's doing this, but the child never got the card. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. The child never got the card. And so exactly. The child never got, so the parent, first of all, the parent thinks, oh, the child didn't call me to say thank you, or whatever. And the child doesn't even know they got the card, number one. And number two, they're also thinking that the parent doesn't care because they didn't get the card. So here's the thing is that the parent has to know, the parent who's struggling to get connected to that child, okay, the one who's being pushed away by the other parent, my message to you is don't give up on your children. You must be consistent because they're waiting for you. The other side, who is trying to put all this energy into dismissing you, wants you to be dismissed. And my thing is saying be an involved parent. Even if you have to be an involved parent from a distance, let that child know you love them. They need to hear the words, I love you. I love you. What's happening is wrong. I do want to see you. I don't like what's happening here. And there's some parents, they don't even get a chance to say that because the parent purposely moves out of state. They move out of state. They do something to minimize as much contact as possible with the other parent.
But that's against the law.
Well, no, it does happen, Pearl.
I know it does happen, but that would be against the law.
It does happen.
It would be up to the parent to know the law.
Out of state, yes, it's up to the parents to know the law. But you know what? I've observed the court system for over 7 years, and with Divorce Support Network, we've studied a lot of things happening, and there's a lot of things that need to be done in that court system. I mean, basically, there even laws. There's things that you get a divorce. What you call when you go through a divorce, you get your divorce decree, which tells you all the things. And there's things that are not even being enforced in that divorce decree. Because
what are the ages of here? What are the ages of these kids that it's happening to? I mean, what would you say, going a survey or something, what are the ages of these kids that they're in this relationship? And is it just one kid? It could be several kids?
Absolutely. I mean, it could be several children. I mean, it depends. Every situation is different. The age groups are different. I mean, basically from the ages of 0 all the way up to 18. I mean, when you're under the influence of one parent predominantly than the other, or you have one predominantly strong parent, powerful parent in that child's mind, that parent will sometimes take control and make it appear that the other parent is weak. So they're not necessarily weak. They just don't want to be arguing and fighting. They don't want the child to get in the middle. They'll distance themselves sometimes just to give the child peace. They're not distancing themselves because they don't love the child. They're distancing because they see what the child has to put up with, going back and forth with all the negativity or all the drama that's going on. They're just saying, okay, I'm gonna let this child have peace and release, so the child has peace. Still wanting to still having involvement in that child's life, but necessarily give that child peace by being at a distance.
What kind of parent would put their child through this when you think about it?
Well, the studies show there's a lot of different parents, but there's narcissism, if people know what narcissism is, and they can go online and learn about that. That's a whole subject. That's a whole show in itself. These are parents that don't feel good about themselves, and basically they try to make themselves look more prevalent or stronger to the other parent. That the parents that are doing this, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to be stronger, more in control. It's all about control.
It's all about control. I would say it's all about control.
It's all
this
about
is what
control.
you're saying. I didn't know this was happening out there, and I'm sure a lot of people out there, and I'm sure if you're angry. But you see, us as parents, we should see the other side, and and we know Congress knows this, and we know Washington knows this. So I think we have to be more forceful where it's called abuse, child abuse. And we have to, as she said, the courts are filled up. Congress isn't filled up. They get elected. So there's laws to be passed. Senate has the laws to be passed. It has to go to the Congress, has to go to the Senate. And maybe this is, did you ever think about putting petitions together and having, like, on your website, and having people sign it and then let us take it to Washington or let us take it to a congressman and throw it on their desk to say,
Yes.
Enough's enough?
This is why we did the Guardian Angels of Justice and Peace, because there's just so much homework to do with getting these laws passed. And that's why it's so imperative that we unite with organizations that are allowing the message to be heard loud and clear. I mean, yes, absolutely, we can petition. Yes, we can go to Washington. Yes, all this can be done. In fact, the Guardian Angels of Justice and Peace has a link on it for our site that says these are bills that are trying to get passed in Washington.
Or can they sign them? These bills that you have on the Guardian Angels of Justice and Peace, you said there's a link.
There's a link.
How did they get to the link?
They go directly to the website, and it'll show a White House link.
All right, it'll say White House link.
White House link, and there's a link there, and basically that link allows them to go directly to the White House to see all the bills that are being worked on, that petitions that they can sign in and get involved with getting laws passed.
So they can actually sign it on the link, print it out, or just push the button and it goes right to Washington?
Everything is automated. Yes, they can print it out.
This is if you're this is clear that we have a problem in this country, and this is clear now why what's wrong with our government, what's wrong with the United States, and what's wrong with the parents, where we see the school, what's wrong with the teachers, where they see, why don't they get to the bottom of it and stop blaming by saying, well, this kid came in with a BB gun, shoot a gun, knife. What is wrong? Why don't they find out to say, well, something's wrong with the kid, something's wrong here. Why don't they find out the background? Why don't they find out? Because it could be this problem that's creating this. That's why I said on the survey, what's the percent of people doing this?
Again, as far as percentage, the age groups, there would be no percentage because of the fact that there's so many different children. There's different age groups, and you got to look at that. What I can say that is that manipulation and divorce has gone on for years. I mean, cases of people that have gone through divorce and they've done things to the other person because of they're just bitter, they're angry, whatever it is. They do things and they use their children. And before we used to say, oh, he's just doing that, he's angry, he's being manipulating. We used to use these words. But what we're finding out is that it's actually creating a symptom for the child who's experiencing these things on a constant basis. So the message is, again, for the parent out there, is hang in there. If you're a parent going through this, God bless you and stay strong. And you can do all kinds of things to stay connected. We live in a blessed age of technology and information. If let's say you have had no connection with a child and you've been trying to reach out to that child, my recommendation is put up a website, and mom, put the child's name or what your name in there and say, I've been trying to reach out to you. I've been sending you letters. I want you to know that I love you. I don't know what's going on.
Good idea.
And let that child, because you know what, they're going to be, a child as they get older, they're going to have curiosity of where their parents are. They're going to want to look up that parent and say, what's going on, what really, they're going to want to know, why was mom or dad not involved in their life.
How many
And
children today try to find their parents and never knew what happened?
birth parents and all kinds of things. So they're kids, as they get older, become more aware, they become more intuitive of what's going on. So if you're a parent out there, I mean, that's what I would suggest, is put the message. If you can't reach them directly because the other parent is ceasing communication with intention to hurt you or intention to disconnect, then do something bolder, which I would recommend, is go online and saying, I love you, this is mom, put your name, and then reach out the child's name, so when they Google search you, they'll be able to find you. And the message is, I love you. Don't put anything on that site that would be detrimental. Don't put anything on the site that would, obviously be, unless you feel that there's something that needs to be said that is designed to help that child see that you have been trying to reach out to that child and you've been trying to help that child.
Is there any history or data where, in cases where the children went through this and now they're adults and there's problems?
Absolutely. There's definitely history and data. There's an organization called Split in Two. The person who actually speaks out on that organization, if you go to Divorce Support Network, she's actually on my main page. I have her. She's speaking at an event in Washington, and she shares her message about what happened to her as a child and how that it affected her as an adult, and the anger, the hurt, the pain that this now woman, who was once a child going through this, that she went through, was so tremendous to her that she actually started a national campaign to end this issue of parental alienation syndrome.
I'm just thinking here. You said some really good points that a lot of parents out there, I think, are missing as well. As you said, the parent is directing the child to really attack and hate the other parent.
Exactly.
Now, and as they're doing this,
and sometimes they'll do it in an
subtle
undermining
way.
They'll
Subtle
do things
way.
like, "Oh, I'm
yeah,
so
but
sorry."
no. This is the point.
Your mother's not here. Or
No,
your father's not here.
This is the point I'm getting at. They're doing this to a child in a subtle way, and as they're doing it to a child in a subtle way, the child now gets hate too towards the other parent.
Exactly.
Now, wait a minute. Here's where I'm going with this.
That's a symptom,
Here's
by the
where
way.
I'm going with this.
Yes.
So the child now is getting anger, really anger. He doesn't even know what the anger is about because he's just told by the one spouse that the anger is directed to him, and he thinks, my mother, my father, they don't love me. They don't do this. Now, you as a parent, see, what she said made sense, because you as a parent now, let's say you're directing the email, you're directing the cards, you're directing it to your kid, and your kid's saying to you, get out of my life. I don't want nothing to do with you. I'm sending it back. Who do you think you are? And then as the parent, you're pushing back. You're saying, hey, I'm not going to take this. But you're not realizing what's going on with his head because he's got problems too. And he's facing this with the other spouse. So maybe what she said is constantly, you constantly email them, you constantly send the cards, you constantly say, I love you. And you constantly say this to them.
Be who the real parent that you are. Show them that, first of all, if they say anything disrespectful to you.
But you say, I'm still the mother. I always say that. I'm still the mother. No matter what you do, I'm still your mother. Respect me. But it could be where you're getting so hurt from what your spouse is doing that the child got caught in the middle, and now you're turning it. I mean, you could be turning your anger against the child because you think the child's doing this, but the child's really not doing this. It's the other parent doing it to the child that's doing it to you. So what she's saying is constantly bring it on, because that child's going to get older. And when he gets older, he's going to sit back and he's going to say, hey, I was never deserted. This is what he said. Then they start looking at the overall picture, and they're seeing who was the deserter, who was this, who was that, who was saying this, and why. And you'd be surprised how smart kids are.
You know what? That is a brilliant thing, and I'm going to say something else on top of it, because a lot of times these kids will start to imitate their parents that are being the controlling ones. They'll say some of the same things. They'll do some of the same things. And that's the biggest message you said, is that when you get these emails and they're writing to you, and who knows if it's actually your children writing to you, you don't know all the time. Sometimes you wonder if it's the actual parent that's writing to you versus the child, because you don't know. You don't have contact. You're not physically talking to that child because that child's being avoided seeing you. But let's just pretend that, for instance, some reason that you think that this child really did write to you and you're responding to it. You can do one of two things. Don't answer it at all and ignore it, and then don't see the child. Don't reach out to the child. Or you can send an email that says, I got your email. I feel your email is disrespectful. It's unfair. You're not aware of what's going on. And I just want you to know, honey, that I love you and I'm thinking about you and I'm here for you when you want to go ahead and have a conversation. That's really, I think the message has to be out there over and over and over again, because our children are being taught what love is, and love is never ending. That means that don't be like that other parent on the other side, and don't let that other parent dictate whether or not you're going to be involved or not in their lives. You want to be involved. I don't care if it's in the smallest way. I don't care if it has to be online with just the universe and they don't even know, if you can't reach out to them. Let's say you're one of those parents that don't have any way of connecting to your child. They moved out of state. The parent took them, moved out of state purposely. You don't know if they're getting your mail. You don't know if they're getting your emails. You don't have a phone number. You don't know if they get your phone. You call, leave messages. You still keep being the wonderful, loving parent that you are. It's not being weak. It doesn't mean you don't have a backbone. That's the manipulation. That sometimes a child will say, you don't have a backbone. I don't understand why. I keep telling you must be weak. That means you must be insecure. No, love is patient. Love is kind. What's in the scripture? It says it all there. Love is never ending. You keep doing what you need to do because you know it's the right thing to do. That's what a parent needs to do. Just let your child know you love them. Be consistent. You don't always approve what they say, how they say it. You're not going to take any disrespect, but you love them and you're there when they're ready to have a conversation.
Good words of wisdom. Good words of wisdom. This is things that you don't know it's even going on out there, but I think we have to look beyond the field. And I'm just thinking of all the killings out there that the kids are doing. They just think go in schools and kill people. This is coming from reasons. I have a funny feeling it's coming from the mother and father, and it's not going to stop. I think it's going to get worse because these kids are going to end up with partners that they're going to abuse or take it out on, and they're going to imitate. And if you're going to imitate, you're going to imitate the spouse or the abuser, because this is who you were raised with. And this is what's going to happen. Then this kid's going to find somebody else. Let's say if it's a boy, it's going to come with contact with a girl and abuse the girl. But if it's a girl, then look, that's scary too, because then she comes in contact with a guy that's abusive. He could be anything, because all they're doing is they're following example. And the examples that they're following is pretty scary in this world. And I can see where not only they're going in schools killing people, but also the suicides could be high among kids, as we see. The rapists, the sexual, all the pregnancies that is going on out there, and they don't even know why, but they're just following example. Pretty sad case in this country.
And here's what I'm going to say with all that, as well as that, again, we talk about the parent who's trying to reach out. We're talking about the parent who's trying to reach out to that child who is, and we're telling to be consistent. And what I'm going to say to the abuser or the controller or the parent who's manipulating, I'm going to say, shame on you. Shame on you for being so selfish that you're not even allowing your child to have what he deserves to have, which is the love of both parents. Shame on you for not being able to see what you're doing to that child.
I'm going to say be more forceful, because if you're talking to a parent that's abusing a child,
I'm saying
and our
don't give
courts,
up. Yes, absolutely.
And you're going to feel for that child, and you're going to feel for the court system not doing their job, and you're going to feel it. Well, say it like it is to these parents that you're in the situation, and you're sitting there, you're listening to this show, and you got one of these kids there. What would you say to them?
Exactly what I just said. Shame on you. And you know what? It's but the most important thing you can say is, or the most important thing you can do is not stop loving that child and let that child know that they may think they have control over that child, but you know who has control over that child? God has control over that child. And you keep doing the right thing. You keep praying. You have the right intentions. You keep praying on that child. You keep praying for yourself. You keep praying for a breakthrough from the controlling parent, and God will do his work. But you have to go out there and you have to be consistent. That child needs to know you love them.
That's good
the
words
message.
of wisdom.
That's the message.
It's pretty scary. We're going to take a little break. We're going to come back with another commercial, and we're going to finalize this and what you should do when it comes to you as a parent getting a divorce.
There's nothing more disruptive and annoying than getting an automated call to your cell phone. There are laws against companies using computers or recorded messages to call you on your cell phone without your permission. This is consumer protection attorney Carrie Flitter. You've heard me as a guest on the Pearl Polto Show. There are consumer laws in place that prohibit many of the unwanted calls to your cell phone. If you're receiving unwanted or unauthorized calls, whether collection, selling products or services, or otherwise, you may be entitled to have these calls stopped and to collect money damages that the law provides. If you're getting unwanted or pre-recorded calls to your cell phone, contact us. the consumer protection lawyers at Flitter Lorenz at 888-668-1225. That's 888-668-1225, or online at consumerslaw.com. That's consumers with an S, consumerslaw.com. If we accept your case, the bad guys pay our bill.
Welcome back to the Garden Angels of Justice and Peace. We have a very touchy subject today, and the subject is about children in the midst of a divorce. And you know what Josie has to say is so important right now. I think everybody that should listen out there, that if you're in this situation, we're going to give you all the guidelines, where to go, where to get help at, even to contact us. And you can contact Josie yourself too. So Josie, go ahead. Say what you want.
I think the biggest message I want to give is that, again, if you're a parent out there and you're dealing with this, or you're suffering through this, first of all, our prayers go out to you, and we're actually working on making sure this message goes out to the entire world, especially in Congress, to make sure these laws are getting passed to protect our kids. And what I'm going to say to you is that, keep prayer inside your heart. Keep praying. God does hear your prayers. And do some things for yourself that are going to make you feel good. Like I said, create a web page, put pictures of you, put pictures of your family on there. Maybe you don't have connection with that child at all. Make a website, show your parents, their cousins, and see what's going on. You got Facebook. Sometimes they block you off of Facebook. Sometimes you think the parent will actually block the other child from seeing the Facebook stuff. So create a web page, because they'll find you on those search engines. Put your name in there, and be positive with that child. Make it sure that you're being positive. Every time that child sees you, feels you, knows you, whatever they see on there, it shows love, because that's what you are. You are love. And then if you have contact with the other parent, warn the parent. Let them know you know what they're doing. Don't be a silent parent. When that parent's doing something, you let them know you're onto them, because just letting them know you're onto them lets them know that you're not going away. You're there to show your child you love them through the thick and thin. And then encourage a relationship where, no matter what happens, as the child gets older, encourage that child to always have the ability to come back and communicate with you and with the family, that the family loves them. And I think the hardest thing, I'm going to add this to really quick, is sometimes when a family sees you going through the suffering, they'll say, let that child go. They've caused you so much pain.
No,
and
never.
They don't understand. And my response to that is, you tell your family you're committed to loving that child till the end of time.
Please repeat that again, because family members out there, and I'm sure you know it, and some of you are controlled by your own families even, and they think they don't want to see you hurt, but guess what? The biggest hurt is not having your child. You're still the mother, and sometimes your family directs you wrong, and what she said is so true.
And remember that your pain that you're having, and maybe the pain of the family, is small compared to the child's pain. The child's pain is 10 times more. So go back to your family and say you love them, and they have good intentions, but you're a committed parent. You're going to do what you need to do, and stay committed to just loving that child even through the process, and let that child know you're committed to loving them. It doesn't mean you give them permission to treat you poorly. It means you're giving them permission to grow and outgrow the situation, to become more aware and get reconnected to you and the family. That's my message.
This is a very good topic, Josie. This is a good topic that we brought up today, and it's a scary topic, as you say, because many people, not just parents, but many people don't even know what's going on out there. And it takes certain people to address situations, to say, I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad this show is on, because now it's happening to me. It's happening to you. And that's what they're saying. It's happening where you're making a difference in their life, because you gave them instructions. You gave them what to do. You gave them the website. But one thing you missed, because all kids, they all go to the computer. They all love the computer. So she's right with the website. They will find you. They will find these messages. Even out of curiosity's sake, they're going to find you, because all kids love the computer, and they're going to direct to it. So no matter what the parent says, if they say, well, don't go to this computer, don't do this, they're going to sneak it anyway. Kids are kids.
Find a way. And even if it takes years, but sometimes it can take years to get reconnected. But what the feeling is that to feel a sense of that you're at least doing something, do something that shows that you're trying to make an effort with that child. It's not because you don't have a backbone or you're insecure. It's because you're an all-loving, gifted parent. That's the message.
Okay, we're getting to the end of our show, and the end of our show is telling us actually, what we should do and what we shouldn't do. I think it's a great show today, Josie, what you brought up. I think it's a great show.
And the thing is that we just want parents to heal out there, parents to heal, parents to stop being selfish, parents to start realizing that, you know, if you have issues as an adult, work on them, get help, find the answers. Don't let your children inherit the same problems that you're having, because that's what you're doing. You're basically teaching that child to feel that they have to choose one or the other, and that you're causing a whole bunch of psychological issues and potentially other issues as they get older. So don't do that.
The moral of the story is actually make changes in this country. That's one. And the second thing is love your children no matter what happens. They're in the middle. They're in the middle of two adults, people that are actually, you know, this shouldn't happen in this country. This is Pearl Polto of the Garden Angels.
And this is Josie Brandon.
And we want to hear a song, and this song is from Josie.
God bless you.
Look at them dancing as they go across the floor. Twisting and turning and yearning for so much more. And every night you'll find them at the bay, laughing and talking all about yesterday. And I wanna love like that. I wanna love like that. So don't ever tell me that long love just cannot be found. 'Cause when you look for it, you'll find that it's all around. Just look at them gazing as he touches her head. She smiles and tells him that she's so glad that she's there. And I wanna love like that. I wanna love like that. So don't ever tell me that long love just cannot be found. 'Cause when you look for it, you'll find that it's all around. So don't ever tell me that long love just cannot be found. 'Cause when you look for it, you'll find that it's all